Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 17.6 Beta 2. iOS 17.6 Beta 2 is out to developers and soon to public beta testers, typically by the time you're watching this video or the following day. It's available on all iOS 17 supported devices and came in at 607 megabytes on my iPhone 15 Pro Max. It was similarly sized on the other updates that we have here with iPad. Apple released iPadOS 17.6 Beta 2, watchOS 10.6 Beta 2, along with tvOS and HomePodOS 17.6 Beta 2, macOS 14.6 Beta 2, visionOS 1.3 Beta 2, and older updates. iOS 18 Beta 3 will be later. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Now let's take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then General, then About. As you can see, the build number is 21G5061C. With the C at the end, I would expect maybe one more release before the release candidate and public release, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, as far as a new modem update, there is a new modem update in this version, so that could help with overall connectivity. And when it comes to new features, well, many of these features are very minor, but the first one we can actually see has to do with iPadOS 17.6 Beta 2 and the Apple Pencil Pro. If you have an Apple Pencil Pro on the latest iPads, and maybe we go over to Find My, when Beta 1 released, I actually talked about how there was some code hinting that we could mark it as lost. That's now here as an option that's available. Prior to this, we just had the Find button. So now we can mark it as lost or activate that so someone else can maybe find it nearby and you'll be able to have it returned, hopefully, or no one else can add it to their Apple ID account. So that's something they've updated that you can physically see. Also in this update within Find My, there's the Ready for Repair option, and we had that some time ago, but the code in Beta 1 hinted that we'd be able to remove it from repair. So far, I haven't seen that anywhere. So maybe in the future updates we'll see that, but so far it's just not here yet. Also, when water is detected in the charging port, it's been updated to tell you to disconnect your charge cable and let it dry for a couple hours. That's in Beta 1, so if you do get that in there and you have that pop up on your screen, I would love to have a screenshot of it, as I didn't want to douse this with water just to try that out. Now, if you have Beats headphones, there's some notes in the codes saying that basically you'll be able to change the duration of the press and hold on Beats. It doesn't specify which version of Beats, but if you have those, they're connected to your device, and you have 17.6, you should be able to change the press and hold duration on it. Some of the other updates that go along with Beta 1 have to do with news, when maybe you follow a sports team. So if you're within news, maybe following a sport, it will pop up on your screen and give you a live activity of that as it's going on. So if you're following your favorite sports team, it doesn't seem to have those options here, but if you are doing that, you'll be able to see that in real time. As I mentioned with earlier betas, the wallet gets a couple updates. These are fairly minor, but if you're using contactless payment methods, you'll actually get an option to change the default app for that when you want to change the contactless payment card if you're using something else. This could be in other countries such as the EU. Doesn't seem to specify that just yet, but it looks like that's coming a little bit later with 17.6. Also within the wallet, if you've filed for bankruptcy, the app can tell you if your card is locked due to this. So again, something in iOS 17.6. Messages can also tell you when an unknown international sender is messaging you and you don't know who they are. And then very small updates, there's a new splash screen if you open the App Store for the first time. So the first time you open the App Store, it will just give you the welcome splash screen. So it says a safe and trusted place to discover amazing apps and games. So something small, but it actually pops up once you install this. So far, it doesn't look like they've brought the stopwatch live activity to this version, so that's probably going to be reserved for iOS 18, so when you swipe home running a stopwatch, it doesn't go into the dynamic island. And the same is true with Apple Music SharePlay. That was in iOS 18, earlier versions of iOS 17, but they took it out and pushed it to iOS 18. Now, as far as bug fixes and release notes, well, notifications not coming through should be fixed, so that's good news. Bluetooth headphone issues should be improved. We'll look at that in the release notes in a moment. And it looks like they may have updated the alarms and timer issues so that they actually sound if you have an alarm set. This has happened to me and my family a couple times on iOS versions. They've actually acknowledged it, and it's something we had happen specifically when you have a sleep alarm set. I haven't had the regular alarms do that. So typically if I have this issue or I'm concerned about it, I'll turn on a different alarm just in case to make sure that they actually sound. It also seems that they've fixed the standby bug. I've mentioned this before, but let's plug this in. So in standby, when your phone is charging, if you press and hold after you've verified with Face ID or Touch ID, you can then go through, change the colors, or do whatever you'd like where it wasn't working properly before. So they've fixed that bug. It's still fixed in beta 2. One thing that's not fixed yet is the actual wallpaper dimming bug. In fact, it seems more pronounced here than ever. You'll see that the wallpaper is vibrant here. I'll swipe home, and then it just sort of dims and desaturates. It's very desaturated. You can definitely tell in blue and orange colors, and it seems like it's still something they need to fix. Why they haven't yet, I'm not sure, but it definitely was not in earlier versions of iOS 17. It just seems to be more of a recent thing. As far as the release notes, let's take a look at those. If we go into the feedback app, and within the release notes, we only have 3 different things, but they're all resolved issues. Under audio, it says they've fixed where some Bluetooth headphones might not be usable as an audio output route with certain AV audio session configurations. They've also resolved some issues with camera and AV foundation capture, and then the marketplace, where they fixed an issue where user notifications failed to display when an app with an expired license and installed from a marketplace fails to launch. So they've resolved some issues here. I still think they've got a few small things to go, but so far it seems fairly stable. We do expect security updates, but they don't post those until this is actually released to the public. As far as performance, well, it seems to be super smooth and snappy. In fact, I really realized how smooth it was just going through ProMotion, going through different apps, opening music. Things are just really fast, and you would expect this. iOS 18 is already coming out in a few months. iOS 17 should be nice and fast and refined, so it definitely seems much better. Heat also seems to be much better. In fact, multiple people reported that their phones seemed much cooler even right after installing the update. So far, it hasn't heated up at all. And as far as battery life, well, that always takes a few days to check. So this particular phone is not my main phone, but battery life on iOS 18, which I've been using regularly on the other 15 Pro Max, is definitely not great for me. But you'll see this only has 38 cycles with 100% capacity. My other phone, just to share with you, if we go back over here, go to battery health, I'm down to 95% with 231 cycles. So overall battery life on this version has not been great. I only had 2 hours and 22 minutes of screen active time yesterday and used 75% of my battery. So with 17.6 though, before I upgraded to iOS 18, seemed to be much, much better. Just was a much better experience, and in general, many people report the same. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 17.6 Beta 2, if you're on 17.6 Beta 1, absolutely install it. You can definitely try it if you're on iOS 17.5.1, but as far as this goes, there's not really a whole lot new here. All of those new features are in iOS 18, but I really wouldn't install that version until the public beta comes out. And as far as iOS 18 Beta 3 and Public Beta 1, I would expect that sometime next week, probably Monday or Tuesday at this point, with the public beta coming later in the week. As far as 17.6 Beta 3, I also expect that to be a couple weeks away, maybe with a final release toward the end of July. iOS 18, of course, we know will release sometime in September typically, usually around the 2nd or 3rd week. When it comes to the overall benchmarks, well, this is actually pretty good overall. If we go to the benchmarks, it scored 2,966 for single-core, 7,335 for multi-core. Much higher currently than iOS 18, and higher than the previous version as well. The same single-core, but faster multi-core. So it's performing very fast. The benchmarks show that as well, and I think it's a pretty smooth and snappy experience overall. Let me know if you've found anything else, though, in this update. It's pretty small, but let me know if you've seen anything different. I'd love to hear from you. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.